Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Glover. Welcome to the Suffolk Legal Innovation and Technology Lab's first Wednesday workshops for the document assembly line community. These workshops are a chance to dive deeper into topics related to building guided interviews with Docassemble using the document assembly line. Today's topic is using JavaScript and CSS with Docassemble interviews. And we don't exactly have an expert guest, but I'll talk a little bit and moderate, and we'll try to workshop this as a workshop. We're being recorded here, and we'll share it on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find it on our blog at suffolklitlab.org or on YouTube by searching for Suffolk Lit Lab. If you're participating live on Zoom, please ask questions. Go ahead and unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask out loud. Your video, it was disabled by default, but feel free to turn it on. This is more of a face-to-face workshop. And for those who are hearing about Docassemble, the Lit Lab or the document assembly line for the first time, head over to suffolklitlab.org to learn more. Everyone who uses Docassemble and the assembly line tools is welcome to attend our weekly community meetings, join our community forum on Microsoft Teams, and attend these workshops. If you'd like to join us, just email us at litlab@suffolk.edu. All right, let's get started. I have a little bit of an outline of just a couple of things to bring up here. And the first is just kind of why use JavaScript and CSS and Docassemble? What can they do that that Docassemble itself can't? And I guess I feel like I'm probably going to oversimplify or miss some nuances here, but essentially Docassemble interviews, you build them in the YAML code and they're running as Python, and that happens on the server side. So that, the server computer assembles the page, and then you enter something into a field, you click continue, and it sends that information back to the server, does whatever it needs to do to it, and then pulls it back out. So while it's displaying in front of you on the screen, nothing is happening with the information. We have to use JavaScript if we want to change what happens on the screen in front of us while the page is loaded in front of us. So you'll see instances where as somebody enters information into a field, you want to make a change. If you have ever used the show if modifier on a field, that is working with JavaScript. Very simple implementation of JavaScript. Because when you enter something in a field, we're making a change to the page in front of you, to the code on the page in front of you. Similarly, we can use CSS to format the page, to lay things out, to change things, to add spacing, to change colors, things like that, which you may want to use to add a whole theme to your interview, or you may just want to use for small things. And I'll show you some examples, I guess, of things that you can do with it. So I think I've got I've got a couple of interviews up that we've worked on with students over the last few years. Here's a really simple implementation. There wasn't a really convenient way to show two images side by side without them running into other things. And so we worked with the student just to add a few simple lines of CSS that I can show you just to make sure that this row showed up nicely. Another example is in creating the small claims form, the filing fee is going to depend on the amount of the claim. And so we added some JavaScript here so that as you enter the amount of your claim, it will tell you how much your filing fee is going to be. And it's funny because it's about, it starts getting more expensive when it gets bigger. And we had to do that with JavaScript and maybe a little CSS, but I'm not even sure we did much. Much more recently, on the petition to seal an eviction in Massachusetts, the court has this weird scenario where if you filed in this one court prior to 2017, you might not be able to e-file. And so they wanted to be able to show this warning just to those people. And so when you're in the court selector, if you select that you're in Brockton District Court, it will show you a warning. And clearly I should have done a better job of the CSS here because it's running off out of the box, which I'm annoyed by. It wasn't, I swear it wasn't doing that at first. So, but we're often using CSS and JavaScript together. And I'll talk more about how we implemented it on, say, this one or the other one, and different ways to do that. I'm happy to do more demonstration of that. As for how you do it, there are a few different ways to add JavaScript or CSS to an interview. And it's probably worth talking about each of those ways. the best practice is to use a features block at the beginning of your interview. And let's see if we can find it in the documentation here. No, that's not going to get us there. I'll link to it. Totally. There we go. So the best way to do it is in your features block at the beginning. You can say, you can link to a JavaScript file that you've stored in your static folder. So in your playground, you have your folders, static files, and you can have a CSS or a JavaScript file in here where you add your CSS or your JavaScript to it. That's probably the best practice way to do it, but it's not the way we always do it. You can also add HTML or raw HTML to a question. So you can add HTML that wraps around the question, which I'm not sure I understand fully the distinction between HTML and raw HTML. I assume raw HTML, you can do more damage with it, is my guess. And so you could, obviously, so you could have an opening and a closing by putting it before and after the question, for example. And you can add anything you want in raw HTML, including scripts. Probably not the best way to do it, but in some cases it might be the only way to do it. You can add the script question modifier. That is, you can add a script modifier to your question in the YAML, and you can just put your JavaScript right in that script modifier. That's how we've done it for a couple of things that I was just showing you. There's a warning on here, and it depends on, you don't want to use this way to do it if you're going to attach a DA page load listener. Happy to talk about more what we're talking about there and what JavaScript events are and what that has to do with this whole thing. But essentially, if you find yourself adding an event listener in order to make your things do, you should probably not do it in this way. Because what's going to end up happening is it's going to fire over and over and over again and slow down your interview, or potentially cause unexpected consequences. Hey, Emily, go ahead, jump in.
Event listener, would we know, would it say DA page load in it, or how would we know, like what, if we've already got some code, some, scripts, for example, how would we know if they have event listeners?
Sure. An event listener, if you're going to have an event listener, we'll pull up some. My favorite place to go for reference on JavaScript is MDN, Mozilla's network. And so we can go there to see what an event listener looks like. And you can do it in JavaScript and jQuery. And so it might look different in each one. But usually you're going to have an add event listener function. And it would look like add event listener. And then the type, the first parameter would be DA page load. And the listener type can be, you can listen for clicks. You can listen for resizing the window. You can listen for specific button presses. This is one of the things that's so powerful about JavaScript is you can listen for all kinds of events and then you can trigger things based off of that. So you would have DA page load right here on an add event listener. You can do it in jQuery too. jQuery documentation is mostly in the jQuery API documentation. And so it would look a little bit different there. I don't really use it very much. Usually in jQuery, the event has its own description. And I'm not sure if DA page load has its own jQuery function. Does it say in here?
Dan, were you saying you would see this if you do the
You would write it. You would have written this.
Or someone would have written it. If you see code that includes this.
Where would you see it?
You would see it in one of the JavaScript
You'd see it in the
files.
JavaScript.
Oh, in the script line itself.
It shouldn't
or in the file, yeah.
It
shouldn't be in the script line.
Yeah. If you see it in the script line, it's a problem, is what I'm trying to say.
So, okay, so let's go back to where you would see it, not where you wouldn't see it.
So, yeah, okay. So I'm not sure, I think I might have used this. I think I just used scripts in modifiers. Where you would find it is you would find it in the static files folder, and you would have a .js file, and it would have the code in it. That's where you would find it. Yeah. So you'd be looking at an add event listener.
Right.
Like I said, I'm not sure there's a jQuery version of this.
Yes, there is.
There is. So it'd be .da page load.
So it would be first a $, then
on DA
parentheses.
Page load, right?
There we go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Emily.
I'm getting from context the what is jQuery?
Thank you for asking, actually. jQuery is sort of a package on top of it. It runs with JavaScript. It's a dependency of JavaScript when you load it. And it's mostly focused around shorthand for making things happen more easily in your code. So let's do an example here. Let's just I should have prepped this, but it's been a busy day, so I apologize.
So like the assembly line is a package for Docassemble, jQuery is a package for JavaScript.
There you go.
And it used to be, JavaScript used to be a lot more painful, and jQuery did some stuff to smooth that out, though JavaScript has improved a little bit since then.
I'm a fan of vanilla JavaScript, but you know.
If you'd started, I don't know when you started, but yeah, you know, it was somewhat painful.
So let's do our hello world, right? And
you want to, yeah.
So let's do this, and what I'm intending to do here is show you how things would look in jQuery and JavaScript, so you can sort of spot some of the differences. But also, let's look at like, how do you even apply this to your interview is pretty important. And one of the things you're going to want to use a lot is right-click and use the inspect tools. You can also get to them from your bar. Usually it's under, or is it usually in Chrome? Why am I missing? I'm missing the developer.
You might be able to go to the hamburger menu, the 3 dots in your top right.
Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, the developer menu disappeared, but it's probably over here. Often under more tools, you'll see developer tools. I'm so used to using it, I just click Command Option I or Command Alt I think on a Windows PC. And that will bring up the drawer, the developer tools drawer down here, and go to the elements. And the best way to start is just to click on the element you want to change. And if it has an ID, that should be unique to it. IDs are supposed to be unique, and you can copy that. And so now let's go back to our interview here, and let's put a features on it, features block on it. And we can tell it, write it right. And we called it test.js. So we'll get around to events.
I think that feature file is not supposed to have a dash.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Thank you. Saving me from errors that don't help. All right, so now we can go to our test.js file. I guess did I not add it? I must not have added it. Let's create a test.js file. And so we grabbed that DA main question ID before. And so let's say we wanted to target that and make it do something. Well, in regular JavaScript, we would start with the document, and we do something like query selector. And then we could put a wrapper around it that is DA main question. And we would want to say that is, we would want to make that a variable. So we might say let main question equal that. You'll see sometimes people say var main question. That's my understanding is that's a bit of an older way to do it. The more acceptable way to do it now is let. So let main question equal this. We haven't done anything with it yet. We've just said that that is what this thing is. We can do it if we were going to do it in jQuery, we would do it like this. Essentially, that $ makes it easier. So I'm going to try and do it in both ways.
You want to give them different variable names, though.
You're right. We'll give them variable name 1 and 2. So now that we have our variable, we could do something to it. And let's say we want to we can just add a class to it, which we'll be able to see in there. And now I did not do that right. There we go. If we're going to do it in jQuery, we would do it similarly. I guess around this in the jQuery stuff. Or we don't even need to do it that way. We probably wouldn't even bother setting it to a variable. We'd probably just do it this way. I think I'm doing this right. I have a period on that one. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Add class.
I don't know. Do I need to rerun the entire interview, or can I just reload the page, do you think? Let's try it and see. Let's see what happened. There we go. One of them worked, the other one didn't, it looks like. So last time it just had the H3 on it. Now we've used JavaScript to add a class to it. And
you might see an error in the console.
We might see an error. It's a good point.
Nope, nothing.
That's not helpful. Usually, Michelle's right. Usually if there's an error, it's going to show up here like it didn't find the element or something like that. So this one worked, this one didn't.
They both have the same class. They both have the same text, so.
Derp. There we go. That'll probably do it right there. There we go. Now we added both questions. You may ask, why do you want to do this? Well, that's actually one of the easiest ways to make things happen with JavaScript is to add and remove a class, and then couple it with CSS. So you can have CSS that says if we've added this class, turn it red. If we remove this class, it'll be back to something else. So that's one of the easiest ways to do that. And when in this one here, that's mostly what happened. So I can show you kind of the implementation of that, and that might help clarify what's going on. And I did this with a script. I've totally gotten off the subject of what events are. I'll try to get us back there. But is adding and removing classes is the bulk of what we do with JavaScript and jQuery in particular. You can do lots of other things, but that is for the visual layout, the way an interview runs, it's one of the easiest ways to do it. So what this says is we've had to do a couple of things. So let me set this up for you. But this, okay. First of all, that field might not be showing, right? We may not be seeing it at all. And so we don't even want to do anything unless it's showing. So we want to know, first of all, if Brockton District Court is even here. If this is showing, now we want to start looking. Every time I change this, it goes, what's the district court? What's the district court? Or what's the thing that we're seeing? And we can look at the, let's try and make my screen a little bigger. I was trying to make it easier on your screen, but we can try and figure out what's going on here by targeting the select. And so when it's hidden, when the select is still there, it's just disabled and it's hidden on the page. And I think it's probably set to, it's not set to display none, is it? What is it set to? Oh, we not. Maybe it's not even in the document until it's. And now it's display block. And if I change this, it's not there anymore. I think it's just been removed from the page, which is fine too. It's just not there. In any case, so what we're looking for here is we're using that event listener, which is the, okay. So what I've done is I've, just like we did before, I've targeted that select. So I'm looking for that container, the trial court other select container. And so when it's showed up, trial court other select container, and I added that using a CSS class modifier in Docassemble. When that is visible on the page, that's the event. I want to know if it's showing up there. And so I look for that and I say, when it changes, this is another event. So whenever you see that on, we're looking for an event. So whenever the value of that changes. So anytime somebody does this, I want a thing to happen. I want to take the value of it and do something with it. So every time that happens, I want to run this show hide warning function. And I didn't have to make this as a separate function, but I wanted to use it for a couple of things. So I did it that way. And if we do that, it's going to read the value that's being displayed. And if it is Brockton District Court, it's going to show a warning. Otherwise, it's going to hide the warning. And these are all of this is JavaScript. We've actually stored the warning as the Brockton session warning here. And what we're doing is we're flipping those. We're doing the display or hide based on the status of that thing. Emily, pipe up. Go ahead.
So does that mean that you are using an event listener here?
Yes.
Which is the non-preferred way, which is what the Docassemble thing was telling us not to do, or? No,
because I'm using a very specific event listener here. Mm. And some event listeners are okay. The one, the Docassemble one, is specifically that DA page load event listener, because that loads every time you change the screen. Even if it's only tied to one question, it still reloads the DA on DA page load. And so it would load right here. It would load right here. It would load on the next screen. And so that's why it's saying it's a bad idea to do it, because I'm trying to run a script that applies only to this one question. And I've done that by ensuring that this is the only question that it triggers on. We're listening for a change on that one select. So when the value of that changes, so that if it were be a page load here, that's the no-no. So, but since it's change, it's okay.
So a couple things there just to add. Mm-hmm. I believe that script only gets put on the page after DA page load is done. So your code in there would never be triggered in whatever.
I thought it was the warning was about I thought the warning was around.
There are warnings around running things repeatedly on the page, but I think it's slightly different. I don't know how the JavaScript would get there beforehand, but
I think it says the script code may run more than once in a browser session. I think it's saying that even though it's tied to a single question, it will run every time the screen reloads.
Yes, but it will not trigger DA page load.
Oh.
And
no, it says because it means that the listener will be attached more than once.
Well, it won't be attached until it's a bit complicated. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think it won't be. But it won't be.
I think we can say that if what shows up here is DA page load, then you're using the wrong thing if you're using a script modifier. Right?
So is change a regular event listener, or is it one you defined in your JavaScript?
No, it's a regular one. So if you go here, for example, if we go back, you'll find there's a whole list of
oh, I see.
Is it this one? No, that's not it. There's a list of listeners. It is extensive.
You can probably search.
It's on the event types. So these are all, you can listen for the end of an animation. You can listen for CSS. You can listen for so many different things. And so these are all of the many different types. DA page load is obviously specific to Docassemble, but you can use any of the JavaScript event types if you want to. And some of them are, I mean, I think there's some in here for mice versus trackpads versus gamepads. There's touch. There's different kinds of inputs. There's all kinds of stuff. Some of the ones that are most useful for us are things like interacting with form fields. So like change, whenever somebody changes the value of a select field, you want to read, like most documentation, you need to read carefully. But let's see. Actually, it might be on the input. Yeah, inputs.
So
This has it has a whole other events fired on input elements and things like that. So there's even more than there is on this screen. So yeah.
Do we have any idea how many people have JavaScript disabled in modern times now?
not many.
I think it would be hard to use the internet with JavaScript disabled because most of the things you go to are JavaScript powered.
Are they?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be really hard to use the internet without JavaScript anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, where I had sort of gotten part with. There are a few other ways to add JavaScript and CSS to your interviews. There's the global CSS and global JavaScript, which apply throughout your Docassemble server. I believe they even apply on the back end. You can change the admin that way. One of the things to know about those is that they can actually accept any code. So I'm sorry, not these. I think the extra CSS and extra JavaScript are other ways you can do it. So extra CSS and extra JavaScript are, I found when I was trying to do some things, it's not, there you go. Extra CSS and extra JavaScript are actually the exact same. You can just, it's to help you organize it. They're basically just raw HTML that you can throw into your interview. So if you want to add extra things, like I wanted to load some external fonts, so you can do that using those screens. If there's probably a better way to do it, but that's one way I hacked it in there. I don't know why you would need to do this. It should work just fine to add, to load it from a separate JavaScript file. But those are some ways that you can get them in there. Yeah. Let's see. One thing that commonly runs into problems is you think it should do something, but it's not. And this probably isn't mostly a problem on Docassemble interviews, but JavaScript can only interact with elements that have already been loaded on the page. And so sometimes this would probably only come into play if you're loading some raw stuff in your headers or not. But one thing that sometimes you'll run into is you'll load your script at the top of the page and the element will be down further. And then your JavaScript may not work because you're saying target this element and it doesn't exist yet. So that's something that comes up pretty commonly when I'm troubleshooting, at least. I don't know how often it comes up on Docassemble, but it's at least something to keep in your mind about why it may or may not be working. What else? A really useful tool, which I touched on a moment ago, is some of those question modifiers. If we go back to the interview that we were looking at here, and look at let's look at that select that we did. So how would you target this? The ID for it is this strange random combination of letters and numbers. And I don't know enough about Docassemble to know if that is always going to be unique to this question or if it changes from time to time. Like if I added more questions to my file, would this stay the same? Or if I updated my interview, would that stay the same? My hunch is not, because that's usually why you use a random code like that. So what's really useful to go along with it is to have something more dependable. And using the CSS class is really useful for that. So I added a CSS class modifier here so that I could know that I'm finding the right thing every time. Classes are meant to be used by multiple things. So it would be nice if you could do the ID here, but you can't, so that's okay. But the thing to look at is this is the class that I added. And if we go back and look at the code, you'll see it doesn't actually add that. It adds trial court other select hyphen container. So just the thing to know is if you use that CSS class, it doesn't add the exact thing you added, it adds a hyphen container to it, which is fine. It is not that hard to target that thing, but it's useful to know that it's there so that when you go through your interview, you can target that thing the way you're expecting to. So the CSS class is really useful. The other thing that Michelle helped me do the other day, which I wasn't sure, I didn't know about templates. Y'all probably do, but I didn't. Was I created a template block for that warning because I needed to show it in 3 or 4 different places on my interview, and it felt like a waste and a pain in the butt down the line if I were going to do it multiple times. So instead, I used a template block, and in the content, I just added, here's the warning that I want to show. And that way I gave it its own class, Brockton session warning. And so then I can easily load the template and display what it's going to be using its class, because it's going to load on the page as well with the rest of the stuff. So that is a particularly useful thing to be able to use too, is those templates. I'm sure I'll use that again and again. I just did this the other day though, so that's new to me. What else is on my list of things to talk about here?
Do we have any examples of people who have made the branding on their interviews really distinct and to match a
That's a good question.
their existing branding? Aleo has a little bit of this.
Aleo has some interesting branding. The Massachusetts Trial Court has some now, which you can see on this, but it's not super distinct. I built this one and I tried to modify it so that it was more similar. I've done some for now we have a Suffolk LIT Lab theme that we are just starting to use.
We did some branding at Michigan Legal Help, but I wouldn't say it's like super extensive.
Let me see, what's maybe the best way to do, you can see the brand I did on the volunteer page. It's probably the best way to get there, to see that. I mean, you could get pretty wild with it if you wanted to.
You can get really wild with it. Whatever brand, whatever your styles are on your, I mean, you can make it match.
There used to be a really fun demo website where it was like, the website didn't change, but everybody could upload their own CSS to show what you can do with it. I don't know if it still exists. No, those are not. I don't think those are it. I'm afraid of clicking on a random thing on a recorded video, but you can do a lot is the point. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's gone really wild with it. I'd love to see some examples of people.
There's some old LitCon videos that not LitCon, DocaCon videos that have some nice customizations.
Yeah, Aleo has some customization here with its own font, which looks really nice actually. And see, is there an interview that I should look at in particular?
I don't know.
To get to
I don't know. I can just.
What do you want me to show off?
Yeah, I'll just give you a random one.
One of the things that I would like to do a better job of is understanding. Oh yeah, you got your own font too. That's nice. You got some custom button styles and Yeah. You can do, I mean, a little bit goes a long way too, I guess is the other thing I would say. I like this. What I've been meaning to gather too is a number of, I'd like to keep track of what are all the changes you need to make to a Bootstrap theme in order to make it work in Docassemble. I've done a couple of different ones now, and if I get in there, you do the Bootstrap stuff, but then you kind of need to customize it as well. So I find there's a bunch of things on here that are like all of these utility classes are left out of the Bootstrap themes that I've built. And so I've gone ahead and added them. That's kind of frustrating that those aren't there. And I keep finding more. So I'd love to try and keep track of what are all the customizations we have to make it work. And there, yeah, I added, these were the things that were also missing from the Bootstrap theme itself that get used. These were just CSS declarations, which I guess we've hardly talked about CSS, but these were some things that I ended up adding in there. So I'd love to try and pool our knowledge on where are the gaps between the Bootstrap theme builders that we're using and Bootstrap itself, but also Docassemble, and what are some of the things that Docassemble needs to make it work properly. So yeah, love to know more about that. CSS, I guess, is similar and different in some ways. It's more about the spacing around things. It's more about laying things out on the page, but there is some overlap between JavaScript and jQuery and CSS. For example, if you want to show and hide something in JavaScript, you can do it that way. You can show and hide it with CSS by changing the class. There's a few different ways to do things. You can build menus that drop down with CSS. You can build them with JavaScript. There's a whole bunch of different options. And I mean, you all know this because you're interview developers, but there's a lot of different ways to do things. And sometimes these are the easy ways to do things. One of the things I noticed, I'm going to come back to this again too. One of the reasons I used JavaScript to do this was because a show if wouldn't work. And I think the reason is the court selector doesn't actually change or load the it doesn't load all of the data about the court. It just loads an identifier that goes back to the assembly line or AL courts package. And the way I think I figured that out was by on change, I was console logging the value that it changed to. And so I'll show you how to do that. Michelle went over this in her troubleshooting session a while back.
You can actually.
Oh yeah, tell me.
We should do console. We can do console logs. They're very useful. Also,
better way to do it?
You can inspect the element and you can see the value right there in the selector.
Oh, so, well, that's almost certainly easier. I didn't actually realize that you could do that. So let me see that. Where do I find that?
So open that one up. Open that, use the left arrow on the select. So if you go back into your elements pane, highlighting
right here.
the select and expand that.
Yeah.
And there are their values.
Yeah. Right. Maybe that's all I needed. I guess I had looked at that and I was trying to figure out, because if you in the interview, and maybe this was not the right way to do this, but I'd love to understand where I was going wrong here. But I think what happens is, so I was displaying on the next page. So this dropdown sets the trial court variable. And what I was trying to figure out is, what is the value of trial court when this is set? Because if I added it to the next screen, it would output, too many tabs open here. If I added it to the next screen, it would output Brockton District Court. But if I tried to do a show if, that didn't work, I assume because of this value. And I assume that what happens is when I click continue, it sends the information to the server and it returns an object with so if I click to the next screen and I look at the values and variables, I don't get that random gobbledygook. If I click here and look for show variables and values and print this, and I look for trial court, it's got this whole object of data, not just that random alphanumeric code. And so I assume something's happening in between those screens where it's actually loading these values. And so I started trying to figure out other ways to target it. And what I eventually ended up doing is looking for the actual label. Bryce pointed out that at first I was targeting, I did a much simpler version of it that was just targeting the, let's see, where is it? The assembly line location, I guess, which was maybe this court code 15, I think. Or no, it was this, it was the all courts 16. So I was targeting all courts 16, and I had a, because of this instance name here, and I had a much shorter version of it, but Bryce pointed out that's a lot more brittle, and that matching it directly to the Brockton District Court was better. So what we're doing instead is this function grabs the actual text of the label. And so anyway, I'm off in a rabbit hole at this point, but sometimes it's difficult to find what you're looking for, and there are a couple of different ways to investigate it and figure out what the JavaScript is doing, or what the stuff on the screen is doing for you. And I got creative and came up with a workable solution. But anyway, have anything else? We're close to the end of our time here, and I'm running out of ideas of my own, but I'd love to try and talk through a few other things if people have stuff that are on their minds. I don't know if this has been helpful or confusing, but I guess my hope is that we've explored a little bit of the potential of JavaScript and CSS, so at least you know what it is. And if you run into something that you are like, oh, maybe that's what we can do with it, I'd love to help. I know Michelle is always helpful, and maybe we can do something more with that. So I guess that's, yeah, go ahead.
I've used CSS for is I think people go back and forth about this red asterisk on required fields.
Oh, sure.
And that's one of the things that I've used CSS for, is to take the red asterisk off. And just done a CSS. I can't remember if it's for the interview or if it's part of our branding package. I've just added that class. And because sometimes what happens is some people say, for example, this screen you have here.
This is a good example, yeah.
It's a perfect example because some people interpret this screen as the red asterisk, meaning you need to check central division.
Right.
And people, I would think that's confusing. They don't want you to pick that one. They want you to pick the one that's relevant. And so they just don't want the red asterisk there at all.
That's a really good point. And then, when you say court not listed here, now it's showing up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we would actually we probably should be hiding it there when this is visible.
Or not even having it. I mean, I think this is a UI question. And I think people fall on either side. And I think it's changing. I don't think that used to be the case. As people use it. Anyway, I just thought that was a really simple example of using CSS that is applicable across the board for different people, depending on how, if you have a label for your field, which you're supposed to have, but doesn't always work very well on the screen, then I think it's not quite so confusing. But if you have no label and you have that red asterisk, that can really throw your users.
Yeah, I remember putting that together, and I think this is it. The link that I'm showing from Teams. Yeah, I think this is where we worked through it. And I think what we found is this CSS here. I think I just searched for CSS required if people want to find this. This should remove all of the required asterisks, I think.
I do want to just say that that it can be solved other ways. For example, putting the label above the field and including a label, and labels can be very useful for assistive technologies. and attaching a, the red asterisk or a red asterisk to the label instead of floating
I
down at
wonder,
the left of the
and
field.
that's actually a really good point for the assistant. I wonder if this is equally confusing for a screen reader. Does this, so let's see, where would the required be on here for the ARIA tag? This should be on
It's probably in the before.
Well, that's where the asterisk is, but I mean, if you're reading a screen reader, what's going to tell the screen reader that this is required?
ARIA labeled by is most likely.
The DA label 0.
Row label, yep. And its text is the legend.
So it's not,
where it says answer here.
Which is visually hidden. Okay.
That means just screen readers will see it. So that's the label for those set of radio buttons.
Okay. But it shouldn't it have a required parameter or property?
I believe I believe it's a class further up. Maybe I'm wrong.
Is it? You could be right. Well, it is what
know.
shows the asterisk, but I'm thinking what
ARIA required equals true. Sorry, not a class inaccurate.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's
thinking,
right there
like
at the beginning.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. Then that, let's see, then that is the next one. Is the select also required then? Do I need to, that doesn't have its own required, does it? This is required. Well, that's interesting. I wonder how that works then, because both of these are, but it's required. It's satisfied because you've checked this.
Bootstrap does weird things. They're only pretend radio buttons, so they have to do a lot of weird things to get that to work.
But this is a satisfactory. Now this is required, but you've answered this question. So now onto this question, made this one's required. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, but yes, I guess that was a digression. But yes, Caroline, CSS is a good way to hide the required button if and when you want to, for sure. So I'm going to call us to an end. I don't know if this has been the most productive workshop, but thanks for hanging out with me, and love to work on CSS JavaScript with folks to solve problems when you have it. I'm more comfortable in that than I am in the Python stuff. So we'll see you around. Thanks all.